aged care in Australia. For those of you who I haven't had the pleasure of meeting yet, my name is Erin Coyle. I'm one of the advisors here at Strategy First Financial Planning. I'm also an accredited aged care specialist. My introduction into the aged care world started really about 10 years ago when my own grandparents were just starting to show some signs that things were getting a little bit more challenging for them around the home maintenance, getting through their sort of daily activities was just becoming a little bit more challenging. And so they were actually really open to the idea of getting a little bit of extra help to get through their days. And they were really engaged. They were clear about what they wanted, what they needed. And we are really fortunate in my family, from a very large family, that we've got, the good old divide and conquer ability to delegate across lots of different family members to work for my grandparents' best interests and make sure that that they were getting the care that they needed. But despite having, a big family network, a really well-educated family network, one that was engaged and everyone was on board, we really found that navigating the aged care world, service providers, what the fees were, how this actually all works, what decisions would have flow and implications, we really struggled to get our heads around all of that. And even me as a financial planner really sort of was struggling to truly understand the ins and the outs of the aged care system. And so I actually went out and did my accreditation at that stage, and I've been really on mission ever since to try and help people understand, help people know that they've got some support, and really start to think about and have those discussions about what that aging journey hopefully looks like for them, and have those discussions with the people who are likely to be supporting you through that. And so that's what's brought me here today. And looking back now, I realise that my grandparents' enthusiasm and engagement is actually really quite rare. Most people get to a stage where they really need help, or someone else has identified that they need some extra support, and only then the conversations are starting. So that's why I'm on this mission to help more people plan to age well, and age well in a way that is meaningful for them. So to help me in this mission, I'd also like to introduce you to Kate Montgomery from Care and Living with Mercer, who we partnered with late last year. Kate and her team bring really valuable insights into the sort of the care world, the practicalities of engaging with aged care providers, understanding the service choices that you've got, and everything that relates to the actual care components of either staying at home or getting the help and support you need as you have higher care needs over time. Care and Living with Mercer have been instrumental already, just in our really short period of time of working together, to help shape some of Strategy First's clients, helping their aged care journeys to be clearer and more seamless and less stressful. So please join me in welcoming Kate today.
Thanks, Erin. That's such a great origin story that you have to how you got into the whole aged care sort of side of things. I love that. Good morning, everyone. So nice to be here. Just making sure everyone can hear me okay. I don't need a microphone yet. I've got quite a loud voice, so that's good. So I'm from Care and Living with Mercer. I am one of the care consultants in the team. I service all of New South Wales and Queensland, helping families across Australia to implement a care goal, an aged care plan, whether it be, from planning ahead, getting a bit of help in home, or all the way through to a move into residential aged care, if that is the goal. So today we will just look at some of the benefits of planning ahead for changing care and living needs, why putting the right support and care in place is a really positive retirement choice, key changes and how your advisor can help to navigate this, what retirement living and care options are available, and then how our team at Care and Living with Mercer can help you to plan as well. Good morning to the newcomers. So the benefits of planning ahead. There are so many benefits to planning ahead, and certainly better well-being. So when you plan ahead, it really helps to alleviate a lot of the stress that can happen when you're trying to coordinate care for yourself or a loved one. Planning ahead for any care and medical needs as much as possible will have a really positive impact on your health. Better decisions as well. So planning ahead really helps to ensure that your wants and wishes can be taken into consideration, allowing you to make better decisions to ensure yourself or your loved one, your loved ones are on board with the plan that you have. And more options. So if you have a plan in place for future care and support, it helps just to open up those options for you. Often when you try to make a decision and it's a bit of a crisis point, it can narrow down the options that you have. And just being more informed about how the aged care industry works. It's really complicated, so it helps to just make sure that you know how to navigate it before the actual need arises. So it really is the key to aging well. So why the right support and care makes a real difference. So you can see up here, there's a really powerful quote here from Senator Anne Ruston, who's the Shadow Minister for Health and Aged Care, talking about how we're about to face a tsunami of demand, because we do know that there's an aging population coming into the ranks that are going to require some form of aged care support and assistance. And what does this mean for the system at the moment? At the moment, there is a lot of pressure on residential aged care. The wait times to get into aged care homes can be quite significant. There's still a lot of job vacancies in general in the industry, and wait times for things like your My Aged Care assessments and approvals, waiting for those home care package funds to actually come in and be approved. So at the moment, well, actually, no, it's probably more. As of November last year, there were 76,000 people waiting for a home care package to actually clear. So it's quite a lot. And we're talking to families where they're waiting 12 months or longer for their level 3, level 4 home care packages to actually get approved. So that was a bit of a scary stat slide, but it's not all doom and gloom. And there are some key changes coming into play. So certainly the single assessment system. So that will be a new system. It was introduced actually in July last year, and the goal is to streamline the process for everyone. The support at home program as well is going to replace the current home care package system. And the goal of that is to alleviate some of those wait times. And that is actually coming into effect from July this year. The New Aged Care Act, so that was a key recommendation from the Royal Commission, and it's a rights-based act that puts the older person at the centre of the system. And the aged care quality standards as well. So the strengthened aged care quality standards, they're designed to help improve the outcomes for older people, set clearer expectations for providers to make sure that quality care is actually being delivered to their clients. And so I will hand back over to Erin just to talk through some of these changes in a little bit more detail and hit some notes on the financial side of things as well.
Thanks, Kate. So up on the screen here, we've listed some of the key changes that will be the differences between the current home care package system and the new support at home model. Some of these changes aren't quite yet bedded down in terms of, they're not exactly set in stone. We're just waiting for some final regs to come through. But it's good to be aware of the changes that are on their way and how that might affect how you or a loved one might use the system. So to summarise, really, it's just about trying to get more people the help that they need to stay at home longer. And trying to alleviate some of that backlog, that waiting time that is currently clear in the system. You hear about it on the news. No doubt if you've got elderly friends or family or neighbours, you would have heard about people who are, as Kate said, waiting 12, 18 months for an approval because their health requires support at home, but the funding just isn't there to match it. And so they're waiting a really long time. And unfortunately, what happens is that their health then progressively deteriorates while they're still waiting for a care at home package, and so then they're forced to make more drastic moves. So, in a nutshell, these are the main changes. There will also be increases to co-contributions. So the reality is, the expectation is that Australians will need to pay more for their aged care. And so one of the biggest changes in the support at home world will be how care recipients use their packages to fund their required care needs. So that will then also have flow-on effects to how much they're expected to contribute towards the services that they need or that they want at home. They will essentially be assessed into 3 different categories based on their financial needs. So you'll either be a full pensioner, a part pensioner, or Commonwealth Seniors Healthcare Card holder, or a self-funded retiree. And how much you contribute as within each of those categories will depend on what you choose to use your budget on. So as you can see here for clinical care, which are things like nursing, podiatry, physiotherapy, all of those sorts of clinical needs and clinical support at home, that will be fully government funded for everyone, regardless of their means. And so people can use their packages or choose to use their packages solely for those that extra clinical support without any further out of pocket. So that's really good news. Where things start to get quite different is in the independence and the everyday living categories. These have very defined service lists. So you can actually go on and see what constitutes part of an independent service, what constitutes part of everyday living service, and therefore what your expectations would be for a co-contribution if you wanted, assistance with showering or dressing or administration of medications. So you can see here that, for those people who want to use their budget for that independence or everyday living components or services, that the budget will actually still cover between 20 and 95% of those care costs, and then the recipient pays the rest. So it's quite different from the current scheme where you've got daily costs that come out regardless of whether or not you're using care on that particular day. This is very focused on you only pay for the care that you choose to use when you use it. So until now, residential aged care fees could essentially be broken down into 3 categories. They really are sort of the room that the resident occupies, their accommodation, the costs of daily living and care, so their meal, 3 meals a day, the electricity, the heating, the cooling, all of those sorts of things, and their care, so their nursing support, their extra care that they need to be in their new home, and then thirdly, additional services, or what I like to call life's little luxuries. So if it's a glass of wine with dinner, streaming services, Foxtel, additional activities that the facility organise. So fundamentally, these 3 components still remain. But for new residents, there are changes to the underlying fees and how they get charged within each of those components. So for accommodation, for example, the maximum rate that for a room that a provider could charge without going back to the regulator and requesting approval for a higher rate has already moved to $750,000. New residents will still have the option to either, what I like to think of, buy their room, or and that's called a refundable accommodation deposit, or a RAD for short. We do lots of acronyms in aged care. Or they can choose to rent their room. If they don't have $750,000 ready to pay, they can choose to rent their room for some or all of their stay. That's called a daily accommodation payment. They can choose to do one or other, or a combination of both. And the key difference for the RADs, if you buy the room, is that where previously 100% of the amount that you contributed into your RAD would be refunded to a resident when they either moved, so if they moved out of the facility, 100% of what they paid would come back, or if they passed away, their estate would receive 100% of what they paid back. That amount will now be reduced by 2% each year, up to a maximum of 5 years. So 10%, keep it round numbers, if they're there in that room for that long. So likewise, if a RAD isn't paid in full and the resident is renting some or all of their room, their daily accommodation payment will be indexed to CPI twice a year. So there are some big changes there going on in the accommodation world. For the second component, the daily care and living expenses, where there used to be 2 fees, the basic daily fee and the means tested care fee, there are now 3 fees. So we've got the basic daily care fee, as it always has been. We'll have a daily hotelling contribution, which is essentially covering things like, your sheets, towels, your electricity bills and those sorts of things. and a non-clinical care fee. So there still remains daily and lifetime caps to the non-clinical care fee, but those caps are different. And so you can see there that we're sort of running similar but vastly different systems. But there's also, in the third component with the little luxuries, there's also changes afoot for how those services can be organised and charged. So what's just as important as understanding the changes, though, is understanding what's not changing, what's staying the same. And the key ones here that most people take some level of comfort around is that the family home will continue to remain at a capped asset value or totally exempt if there's a spouse or what we call a protected person still living in the home. RADs will remain for now, although there are expected to be some changes further along in this decade, so watch this space there. Existing residents will also undergo a no worse off principle, and they'll be grandfathered for their fees. So if you know anyone who's currently in care, their current situation as fees will remain. But importantly, and probably most confusingly, there are additional grandfathering rules in place for those who are not yet in residential care, but if they've been receiving a home care package or they were on a list for approval for a home care package as of late last year, they will actually get some grandfathering in their fees as well. So we're going to be running multiple different fee streams from July onwards. The good news is that the government will continue to fund all clinical care in residential settings. So that doesn't change. The standards of care for people getting the care that they need won't change. And most importantly, for those elderly Australians who can't afford care, there's still a really strong safety net within the new legislation to make sure that the people who can't afford care at the advertised rate still get the care that they need. So, as you can appreciate, aged care fees and the funding of them, they're inherently complex. We've now got multiple grandfathering systems that will start to take place. And so the reality is that the changes are just going to make this more complicated than they ever have been before. And this means that it's stressful, confusing, overwhelming when friends and family or people sort of making decisions for a loved one who might need extra care. That's a really hard road for them to travel down. So that's part of the reason why we've launched the aged care service here at Strategy First, so that you know that we are here to help in the different aspects of aged care, whether it's care at home or residential care. We can help you to understand the fees that are involved, what the different components of care costs are, how they get calculated, what they could mean for you. We tend to have a bit of a discussion as well about myth busting. There's an awful lot of myths around aged care and misconceptions about financial implications or expectations for those who are looking to get extra support either at home or going into sort of more permanent full-time care. Understanding what your options look like, considering the implications for what decisions might have flow-on effects further down the line for either cash flow or asset longevity. Avoiding surprise fees and unexpected invoices is a really important one. Unfortunately, we hear some fairly large horror stories where people make decisions, they think that they're doing the right thing by someone who's moving into care, and then they get the first invoice and it's just complete bill shock. It's not what they were expecting. So the last part of what our service is designed to do is to help people proactively think about what funding options they've got so that they don't make decisions that then often are irreversible. And things like selling the family home, making big super withdrawals, they are often irreversible decisions that if you realise that that's something that you didn't intend to do or that you didn't see what the implications would be, you can't go back and ask for that house back. You can't go back and put that money into super, or it's often very difficult to do so. So that's why we're here to have those conversations early. And we've designed 3 distinct service categories to help people along different stages and different phases of that journey. So for most people who are just starting their inquiries or wanting to understand more about getting some extra help while staying at home, step 1 in our service package gives you the opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion with us, answer those questions, those burning questions that you've got. I heard that someone did this, is that the right thing, or is that true? And give you some really clear information and clear guidance on what those financial decisions and expectations will be. We just charge a once-off fee, like everything we do at Strategy First is a fee for service, $990, which also gives you access to Kate and her team via the guidance and advice service, which Kate will talk about in just a moment. But if there are decisions that need to be made imminently, or we're sort of staring down the barrel of actually needing to make some decisions in relation to full-time care, we do have a comprehensive funding analysis service where I actually sit with you or your family or the people who are helping you with the decisions, and we go through the financial implications of different funding decisions for extra care. And this is a really highly personalised service, but it's designed to give families clarity and confidence that the decisions that they're making are the right ones for their loved one, and that they don't find themselves in an unexpected situation. So lastly, for those, and I should just add that there is, that step 2 personalised advice is really, really helpful, I'm finding, for people who are sitting in powers of attorney positions. So they're expected to make decisions on behalf of someone who's going into care, and they need that guidance that they're actually, legally fulfilling that obligation as a power of attorney, that they're considering the best interests of that resident or that person who's going into residential care. And lastly, for those who are looking for some ongoing support after they've made all of those care funding decisions, we're again here to help take some of that pressure off, and implementation of any of those funding decisions that you make, dealing with paperwork that's involved, making sure that things are completed correctly, all of those sorts of things. And it's really important. I know that a lot of you here are existing Strategy First clients, but you don't need to be an existing Strategy First client to engage with these services. We've specifically designed them to actually be broad and encompassing, so that people who are outside of our regular remit are able to get the support and the help that they need. So if you are interested in getting some more information, if you feel as though you need to book a one-on-one appointment, you can do that using the QR code. I believe that there's QR codes on each of the tables as well. But for now, I'll hand back to Kate to talk about what options there are when additional care is needed, and how to get help when you're actually navigating through those options.
Thanks, Erin. Oh my gosh, there's so much to unpack with all of that, isn't there? I think advisors like Erin are going to be your best friend when it comes to those sorts of financial decisions, that's for sure. So your options for retirement care and living. When we talk about the options, there are sort of, I guess, 3 sort of main services that we normally look at, and 3 options. So the first one being in-home care. So what is in-home care? It simply just means bringing in some outside support, and it's suitable for those who just essentially have a gap to fill in regards to what they're able to do at home, or what they need to help them stay in the home for longer. It's things like, it can be help around the home in regards to sort of cleaning, gardening. It can be community access, transport. It can be personal medical care. It can even be social support. You can get quite creative with how you use that home care support. To get the government funded support, you need to register with My Aged Care and get assessed. It used to be called ACAT, so you're probably maybe used to that terminology if you've heard it before. It's now the Aged Care Needs Assessment, and that will then give you a support plan that will outline the actual services and fees that you've been given access to. You can also supplement or go completely privately funded care as well, if that's available to you. The other option that we normally look at is the retirement communities. And so why would you choose a retirement community versus your traditional downsizing, for example? And more often than not, that is to access that built-in social support and community within that village. So looking at things like, the social clubs, they often have swimming pools, on-site restaurants, all those sorts of things. So that's really the benefit of moving into that retirement village rather than, say, just your normal downsizing. There are fees that come with that and some legal considerations. So when we're talking to our clients about whether or not that's the right move for them, we always recommend that they speak to their financial advisor and also get some legal advice in regards to the contracts, because the contracts can be quite complicated. In regards to care options, you can bring in that home care package, so the same way that you would have that in the home. You can take that with you, you can coordinate it once you're there. We're also seeing a lot of retirement communities are now talking about care on site that they provide. Often that just means that they have either partnered with a home care provider, or they might actually have their own home care provider sort of built into that community. It's still funded through a home care package or privately funded by the individual, though. It's not built into that buy-in cost, if that makes sense. And then residential aged care. So that's that sort of traditional move into an aged care home. And that's to access that 24/7 care support if or when it's needed. And most people will consider a move into residential aged care simply when their care needs start to outweigh what can feasibly be provided safely for them at home. Again, to access residential aged care, you unfortunately need to go through that government system and get assessed through My Aged Care. They will give you what's called the residential respite and residential permanent care codes. So everyone needs those codes going into care, regardless of the home, their financial circumstances, how they're funding it. And again, it's complicated, as you just heard Erin talking about. So we always talk to our clients about getting that financial advice before entering care, just to make sure that the way that they're funding it and the way that they're supporting that loved one or themselves is the right move. And so how can our team, how can Care and Living with Mercer help you to plan ahead for this? So we're a really unique service. We help families across Australia to make better and faster care decisions. And we work across that continuum of care. So we work with families who are maybe just sort of starting to dabble into a little bit of support at home, all the way through to ramping up that care at home, through to residential aged care, and even end-of-life preparations. We have two services that we provide, and the first one is our guidance and advice service, and we describe this as a done-with-you service, and we estimate this can save up to about 50% of the time that would normally take for you to actually implement that care plan strategy yourself. So it's an online portal where you go in and you create an interactive planner, which is really specific to yours or your loved one's needs. You can access unlimited support once you've created that account with us from a care consultant like myself. Our team will actually go in and review that planner for you. So we will see the answers that you've given us, and we will help to prioritise the steps and actions, and even add in new information on things like suggested home care providers in your local area that we know and trust and have worked with, or residential aged care homes that we've done due diligence on. So we complete due diligence on all the providers that we work with and suggest to our clients, and we don't take commissions from any of the providers either. So it's completely individualised, unbiased recommendations that's specific to your needs or your loved one's needs. You can use the planner to collaborate with family and friends. You can invite them in. You can allocate tasks to other family members. That's often a really popular function. And you can also use our platform to stay informed on major aged care changes, updates. We do newsletters, webinars, and talks like this as well. So the next, oh, no, sorry, I forgot about these slides. So this is just, this just sort of shows what the landing page looks like when you would go to log into our portal. So it's really easy to use. You just answer a few questions. You'll get what's given a starter guide, which just explains the content that you might be looking at. And then from there, you go through, create an account, and off you go. Very easy. The next service that we have is our Care Concierge service. And this is a really high touch support for faster, better outcomes. We estimate that this can save up to 75% of the time that it would take. And this is a hands-on service. So this is a dedicated end-to-end support from a care consultant like myself, where we actually work with the families. We do as much of the steps and actions for the families as possible to help achieve whatever the goal and outcome might be. Often we find we're working with families under this service when there's an urgent care need, or perhaps they're just emotionally overwhelmed and would like someone to step in and navigate as much of it for them as possible, or they just simply don't have the time to implement whatever that care goal might be. We work under different sort of service packages in the care concierge service, depending on the family's needs. But generally the way it works is that we would spend some time with the family, with the care recipient, getting a really good understanding of what's going on for them, not just clinically, not just medically, but also personally for them. So what are their actual requirements? You know, if we're looking at things like a move into a residential aged care home, yes, of course, care and health is something that we need to consider, but we also need to consider what's actually going to work for that person too. An example I've been using a lot recently is I've worked with quite a few families where their loved one has been living out sort of in a more rural area, and it's really important for them to have access to outdoor spaces with that move into residential aged care. They're used to having that outdoor space, and things like a high-rise style building would just not work for them. So it's taking into consideration all of those things, quite a holistic sort of assessment and interview. We put that together in a care plan, and then we actually reach out to the homes or the home care providers on behalf of the family. We create a short list and we will tour with the families. So we actually take families around on tours for the aged care homes, or we will interview home care providers and find that good carer profile match for the loved one as well. And then we advocate on behalf of our clients too. So things like wait times, you know, getting to the top of wait lists, dealing with perhaps pressure from hospital, all those sorts of things becomes our job, not the family. So it takes a lot of that stress away from the family members who are trying to, you know, help a loved one who is maybe not at their best health-wise, and also sort of deal with the bureaucracy and the administration side of things that can come with implementing a care plan. And probably the best way to describe this service is normally to just give a bit of an example of some of the help that we've given to families. And last year I worked with a really lovely family up in Brisbane, and the wife had been looking after her husband. He'd been living with dementia for 9 years at home, and she'd been his sole carer. So they had no outside support coming in, and unfortunately they hadn't really thought about and planned ahead for what might happen if she were no longer able to care for him. He found himself in hospital due to unrelated health issues, so not to do with the dementia, but with other health issues. And unfortunately from there, things just sort of snowballed, and it was decided that he could no longer safely return home. Now, because when he went into hospital, he had some unmanaged pain, he was in a new environment, he was disoriented, he was confused. All the medical reports that they had done there, including the assessment with My Aged Care, spoke about his agitation and aggression. I would be agitated and aggressive if I was stuck in hospital for weeks on end and had unmanaged pain. So, you know, it's understandable that that's how he was presenting. But because of that, as they were trying to coordinate a move for him into residential aged care themselves, he was getting rejected from home after home. And by the time we spoke to them, he'd been rejected from 13 homes in their area. So you can imagine they were feeling quite dejected, stressed, anxious, and just really emotional about the whole process and a lot of unknowns. So after we spent some time with the family, I also spoke to the hospital. He'd already been in hospital for about 10 weeks by the time they engaged our services. He'd settled, everything was going fine, he was back to his usual demeanour. So we were able to help update those medical reports, right? Get a true reflection of how he actually presents, and also speak to some of the homes that had previously clinically declined him to actually get their care team to come out and see him and meet him in person to see for themselves. So that advocacy played a key role for this family. And from there, we got him clinically approved at 5 homes in the area, I think 4 of which had previously declined him. So I flew up to Brisbane, spent 2 days with the family touring those homes, was able to narrow it down to 2 preferred homes. We got him on the wait list for all of those homes. And again, my role then sort of shifted into advocating for the family, for him, in regards to getting to the top of those wait lists for the homes, because memory support units, which is where he needed to go, the wait times can be quite lengthy. So my role sort of morphed into being that sort of advocate for the family, but also the conduit between family and the hospital too, so that they weren't receiving that constant pressure from the hospital to discharge him. So he has since moved into care. He's doing really well. His wife can visit him every day. He's just down the road. He's settled in beautifully. I think when I spoke to her the day after he'd moved in, you know, said, oh, how's he going? Is everything going okay? You know, because you always expect a little bit of sort of unease and unrest when you're first moving into care. And she said he just sat back in his chair and sighed and just said, oh, it's so peaceful here. Because he'd been in hospital for so long, the poor thing. So, you know, it's just a really lovely outcome for the family. So that's probably one of sort of the extreme ends of how we help families. And, you know, we help sort of with all kinds of different situations. But yeah, that's a good story, that one. So how do you access us? So to access the online portal, you just simply go to our webpage, which will be on the information that you've got down there. You follow the prompts to get started. It's a really easy process. Alternatively, if you're not sure what kind of service you might actually need, whether it's the guidance and advice, whether it's a bit more intensive and you want that actual hands-on help, just give us a call. We will always chat to families to sort of have a bit of an exploration about what's going on, talk about how we can help and what service we would suggest in that situation. You can also book a chat with us at any time that's convenient to you. It's the book a chat function is on our website. You can also scan the barcode up there. And that's it. Thank you.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We do have time for some questions. If you have any, if you don't feel comfortable raising them in a public forum, feel free to come and have a chat to Kate, myself, or there's some other Strategy First and Ken, Mercer staff floating around as well. But thank you so much for joining us. Have another cup of tea or coffee and a bicky, and we'll see you again next time. Thank you.
Thanks everyone.